So why do Republicans hate Anthony Fauci so much? Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So I was actually quite moved the other day when I was reading the New York Times, and I came across this column written by Anthony Fauci, where he talked about his friendship with Larry Kramer and, as the headline says, loving difficult people. Now, just so you know a little history, Anthony Fauci was the head of allergy and immunology at the National Institutes of Health. He held that position during the AIDS crisis, when there were legitimate concerns about the fact that the federal government didn't seem to be doing enough to address the crisis because the groups who were most affected by it were, shall we say, undesirable people. Well, the AIDS crisis is really what supercharged the gay rights movement, and Larry Kramer was one of the leaders of that movement. He was a dramatic figure who used to do things like chain himself to the fence around the White House, things basically aiming to get attention at all costs for his cause. Now, Fauci was the target of a lot of this protest and outrage being spewed by Larry Kramer because of the fact that it was Fauci's job basically to investigate AIDS and how the federal government should respond to it. So when Kramer was claiming that the federal government was not moving fast enough in addressing this crisis, one of the faces of the federal response was Anthony Fauci. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Over the years, as Anthony Fauci continued to work on trying to find a cure for AIDS, the relationship between he and Larry Kramer evolved from one of confrontation to being one of friendship. In fact, very close friendship. And Fauci states clearly in this essay that right before Larry Kramer died, they told each other that they loved each other, even though their relationship at times was difficult. Now, I was really moved by this story. I could relate to it in a number of ways. First of all, because my wife and I, because of our daughter's addiction, we got involved in Al-Anon. And one of the Al-Anon groups that we got involved with, as it turns out, happened to be largely a group of gay people. As a result, we had a bunch of friends, very close friends, in fact, who we shared intimate details about our lives with, who were gay. I remember being at a Christmas party, and at the end of the Christmas party, going around and giving some of my friends from this group a big hug, wishing them Merry Christmas. One of the people there commented on the fact that it was ironic to see me so easily showing the loving relationship I had for these individuals, despite the fact that many people would assume that it somehow undermined my own sexuality. But that's the point. I didn't have a need to somehow prove my own sexual worth, and I certainly didn't need to do it at the expense of these very kind people who had taken my wife and I into their lives, essentially. And that's what I heard when I heard Anthony Fauci similarly expressing to this gay man and publicly announcing it that he loved him. What's more is, while I was working for the city, I developed a pretty close relationship, actually, with somebody who is a reporter covering the city. Since I handled the press mostly, I dealt with him on a daily basis. And he was a fine person, although kind of a pain at times. As I expressed on a Facebook post after he died, which another friend of mine who also dealt with this reporter said was an appropriate sentiment for his passing. This reporter was pain in my ass, but I will miss him. So I actually have had similar experiences as Anthony Fauci, where number one, I expressed my love to people whose sexuality was not the same as mine. And number two, who had close relationships with very difficult people at times. So I really could relate to everything that Anthony Fauci said in this essay. And what really struck me about this was how humanistic it was, how empathetic it was, how caring it was. These are things that you would think would be positive things for an American to express. And it seems like it would be odds then that people would have such a negative reaction to him. I mean, the venom that some people feel toward Anthony Fauci goes far beyond any simple policy disagreement over how he handled the COVID response. I mean, you've got Elon Musk and Republicans calling for him to be prosecuted, and him even receiving death threats. I mean, what's the deal with them being that angry? I mean, if you disagree with him, that's fine, but he seems like generally a decent person trying to do his job. You may disagree with how he handled it, But really, prosecute him? Want him to be killed? But the truth of the matter is, that's exactly what they don't like about him. The fact that he is a decent person. As this book by Adam Serwer pointed out, called The Cruelty is the Point, the Past, Present, and Future of Trump's America, the MAGA crowd actually love that negativity and that anger and that bitterness. Those things aren't simply byproducts of Trump. That's why they like him, because he is so cruel and makes fun of disabled people and attacks Gold Star families and all those things that he's done. That's what they like about him. That's why Ron DeSantis has worked so hard to try to carve himself out as being even more unlikable than Donald Trump, even nastier, even meaner than Donald Trump. Because guess what? That's what the MAGA base wants. They don't want leaders who are kind people, who are caring people, because guess what? A lot of them are not kind people or caring people. And they dislike people who are kind and caring. Thus, their dislike of Anthony Fauci. So if you've had the experience of trying to argue with someone who is a Trump supporter, frustrating though it may be, know that part of the problem is we're arguing from completely different perspectives. Well, we believe that we should try to help people and that people should be nice to each other and caring. That's not what the MAGA crowd want. So the more that we argue with them and say that Trump isn't that way, the happier they are. This has been an issue I've struggled with for some time, because as an American who loves my country, I must say, it bothers me quite a bit that there are such negative, nasty people here. And I hope and pray that we're able to find a way to get past it. Well, if you want to see another video where I talk about this dynamic, check out this video over here that I did quite some time ago. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.